Okay, let's jump into a fascinating deep dive today. We're looking at a story that really pulls together some epic threads.
Yeah, you've got Beowulf, you've got Norse mythology,
Mhm.
but it weaves them into something very, I think, personal, a story about identity.
Right? And destiny and, well, dragons, literal dragons. Our source here is Rebecca Barnhouse's novel, The Coming of the Dragon, specifically the excerpts you've shared.
And our mission really is to dig into what Barnhouse is doing here, not just the plot, but the insight she's layering in about heroism, leadership, all that stuff.
Exactly. We're following this character, Rune, uncovering some pretty surprising truths about him and the people around him. And it's about how history, even hidden history, shapes things.
Sort of a shortcut to the heart of the story.
Yeah. And how these, seemingly small things can impact a whole community's future.
And it definitely touches on things you can relate to, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out who you are, feeling like you're not ready for something, maybe minus the actual dragons.
I mean, hopefully minus the dragons, yeah. So let's start at the beginning. We meet Rune, and he's living this seemingly simple life on Huala's farm.
hmm With his foster family, Walla, Skin, Skull,
Mhm.
and then there's Amma. Their relationship is interesting,
Yeah.
complex.
It is. And Barnhouse does a great job setting this up, doesn't she? The details feel real. The harvest, the chores.
Totally. But even there, you get these little hints, like Amma teaching him lays in poems, not just farming skills. It hits at something deeper, older.
And the cooking. That detail about her porridge being terrible.
Right. It's a subtle way of showing maybe her mind is elsewhere, or her skills lie in other, less practical areas. It contrasts with the simple life she seems to lead.
It signals that things aren't quite what they seem, and that simple life gets disrupted pretty quickly. Amma goes down to the beach.
Which is unusual for her, apparently. Phila notices this straight away. Amma's outside her routine.
Yeah, and Fola sees her watching something eagerly out at sea. Then this boat appears. At first they think maybe raiders.
But no, it washes up, and inside, a
It's
baby.
just a baby.
Well, a baby surrounded by warrior gear. A sword, shield, mail shirt. Definitely not your standard shipwreck.
Okay, so instant mystery.
And instant tension. Dayraven, one of the warriors there, he's immediately suspicious. He doesn't see a baby to rescue. He sees what? Maybe an offering.
Something taboo, yeah,
Right.
that you shouldn't interfere with.
Exactly. And he actually draws his sword on Amma over it. It shows
Awesome.
how dangerous this situation is right from the start.
But then King Beowulf arrives. Here's where the sort of legendary connections get really clear.
Right. And Beowulf immediately gets it, tells Dayraven to back off, approaches Amma.
And Emma, full notes she doesn't curtsy. She looks him right in the eye.
That small detail speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Combined with Beowulf trusting her, the baby, the gear.
Yeah.
It plants this seed. You know something bigger is going on with Amma and this child.
Yeah, it hints they're connected to a world beyond the farm, maybe even to Beowulf himself. Sets up all those later reveals perfectly.
So Barnhouse uses this arrival, this inciting incident, to launch the core mystery. Who is Rune and who really is Amma?
And building on that, things take a pretty dark turn soon after. Rune loses his pendant.
Right, near the Giant's Mountain. And he bumps into this ragged stranger.
Just a brief encounter, but unsettling.
Very. The stranger recognizes the runes on the pendant. That's significant. This isn't just some random vagrant.
And the pointed teeth.
Yeah, that detail definitely pushes him into the not quite human category, doesn't it? It feels important, ominous, but Rune doesn't really get it yet.
And it's right after this weird meeting that the dragon shows up.
Yeah, flying over the eastern side of the kingdom, and the destruction is specific.
How so?
It's not just random chaos. It specifically burns farms, fields. The text mentions it wipes out most of the kingdom's grain supply.
Ah, okay. So it's not just a monster attack. It's hitting their survival for the winter.
Exactly. The threat is immediate, practical, societal. The stakes are incredibly high.
And Rune, seeing this, he reacts. He decides to run to the stronghold to warn the king.
It shows a sense of responsibility, doesn't it? He's not a warrior, but he feels he has to do something. But he thinks Amma's safe.
Yeah, he thinks she's on the other side of the mountain, away from the fire, which is just tragic.
Utterly. Because the aftermath is brutal, and it's deeply personal for Rune. He gets to the stronghold.
And the king's hall, the famous Golden Hall, is burned down.
Yeah. He sees Beowulf, he sees Finn, and he sees the stranger again.
The one with the pointy teeth?
That's the one. Only now the king just refers to him as a slave, which is confusing. And the king says something cryptic like he was warned but didn't understand.
Referencing Rune's encounter, maybe?
It seems likely. Another hint that the stranger's more involved than he appears. But Rune's mind isn't on that. He's worried about his family.
Right, he needs to get back to the farm.
And he takes the slave's horse, Hairy Hoof, to get there faster. Another little link connecting the stranger to what happens next.
And what he finds is just devastating. The farm's gone, burned.
Walla, skin, skull, all dead. Finding Skull's dagger there really drives home the violence of it.
But Amma.
He finds Amma alive. Barely. Terribly burned. He tries to help, but it's too late.
And she says something to him.
Her last words. She points at him and says, "Survivor of war."
Survivor of war. What does that even mean to him at this point?
Nothing, really. It's just this baffling, final message from her. But it lodges in his mind. And combined with the grief, the horror, the guilt.
Well, he feels responsible.
Yeah, he feels like he should have been there, maybe could have done something. And all that emotion fuels this vow. He will kill the dragon. He'll avenge Amma.
So this vow, born from personal loss, pushes him forward.
Absolutely. He decides he's going after the dragon himself. Alone. He takes the sword and shield from Amma's hut.
The gear that came with him in the boat.
Exactly. The connection is there even if he doesn't fully grasp it. He says a prayer to Thor and Freya and heads up the mountain.
But it's not like he suddenly becomes this epic hero.
Not at all. The journey is a struggle. The shield's heavy. He feels useless, like he's doomed. He's still just a farm boy playing warrior.
And strange things happen on the way up.
Yeah, Barnhouse weaves in these moments that blur reality. He sees goats. Did Thor send them? He hears a sound like Amma's voice near a cliff.
Guiding him. Or something else.
Exactly. It seems to help him find a path, but also leads to him nearly falling. He wonders if it's her spirit or something. Trickier, malign.
That ambiguity keeps you guessing. Is it supernatural or just his mind under stress?
Right. And then he runs into Kettle, a proper young warrior scouting.
And Kettle's surprised to see him.
Surprised he's unburned. And Kettle says something kind of brutal. Maybe the dragon didn't even see Rune as a threat.
Ouch! That must have hit Rune's self-doubt hard.
Definitely. It reinforces that feeling of inadequacy. Kettle basically tells him, "Go back to the king, kid."
So he does. He failed in his solo quest, still feeling like he's not cut out for this.
He arrives back at the stronghold, which is now more like a refugee camp. Everyone's displaced, mourning.
He sees people he knows.
Yeah, Dayraven's there, probably still skeptical of Rune. Thor's grieving Finn. And then Fulla, the woman from the beach scene.
What does she say?
Something really touching. She says Amma was her friend, and that Rune, the baby Amma took in, gave Amma a reason to live.
Wow. That adds another layer to Amma, doesn't it? Shows she had these connections, this hidden life, even in her simplicity.
It does. Then the community gathers. There's feasting, warriors making boasts. Very Beowulf-esque.
Right out of the epic.
And the bard asks the stranger, the slave, about the dragon's hoard. The stranger gets shifty. Still mysterious, still connected to the dragon somehow.
But then comes the big moment. The king calls Rune forward.
Yeah, Beowulf asks Rune about seeing the dragon. But it's not just about that.
What happened?
Beowulf drops the bombshell. He reveals Amma's true identity.
Okay.
She wasn't just some farm woman. She was noble, a
Oh.
peace weaver, daughter of a Frisian earl, married into a Schilfing family.
Whoa. Seriously.
Seriously, her family was wiped out in feuds. Beowulf gave her refuge, and she chose the simple life hiding away. Made the king promise never to reveal who she was.
That changes everything. Her quietness, her knowledge, the king's connection to her, even why she was acting weird on the beach that day.
Exactly. It wasn't just a simple life. It was a conscious rejection of the violence and politics that ruined her first life.
Yeah.
It shows how deep those old feuds run.
And it starts to connect her hidden past to Rune's own mysterious origins.
Which leads right into Rune's next major realization. He has this vision, or a dream.
What does he see?
He sees Amma. He sees the stranger again, but not as a slave. He's richly dressed. There's a wolf, a feather cloak.
Okay.
Amma's voice says survivor of war again. But then there's a new line. He leads men astray.
Chilling. About the stranger.
That's how Rune interprets it. This isn't just a dream, it's insight. He finally understands the stranger isn't human. He's something else. Maybe a god, maybe something darker. And he's deliberately misleading the king, leading them into a trap.
So the slave disguise was just that, a disguise.
Right. The vision confirms it. This gives Rune a whole new mission. Not just revenge for Amma, but saving the king from this other hidden enemy.
He has to warn them.
Urgently, he rides back to the mountain, desperate to reach them before it's too late.
And he finds them.
Just in time. They're at the crag path he found earlier, And it's immediate drama.
What happens?
Rune rushes forward, grabs Beowulf, just as the stranger goes tumbling over the cliff edge. Gar confirms, yep, that was the slave.
But Dayraven, he's not buying it.
Not for a second. He's immediately suspicious of Rune, calling him a witch's whelp again. Same prejudice as before.
But Beowulf trusts Rune this time.
He does. He lets Rune explain. Rune describes the vision, the rich clothes, the wolf, the cloak, the sword-proof. The man wasn't a slave.
And someone else saw something.
Surt did. He saw the stranger fall, but then transform into a falcon and fly away.
Whoa, physical proof.
Exactly. Beowulf's reaction seals it. Only God's shapeshift. It confirms the stranger wasn't just human, he was supernatural, an enemy manipulating events. Rune's vision was right.
So the plot thickens. It's not just a dragon, it's divine meddling too.
Right. But with the stranger dealt with for now, the immediate threat is still the dragon. Rune knows the path.
So he guides them up.
Yeah. And near those 3 boulders he saw before, they find what's left of Rune's shield, the one he abandoned.
Confirmation they're in the right place.
Close. Very close. And Rune seems to have one last clear vision or sense. He sees the dragon glowing red in its barrow, about to come out. He tells the king, it's here.
This is it, the confrontation.
And Beowulf, despite his age, really steps up. He becomes that legendary hero again, gives this inspiring speech, starts heading towards the barrow.
But Dayraven pushes Rune aside, still doubting him.
Seems like it. Then the dragon emerges, terrifying, and the men.
They panic.
Big time. A lot of them just turn and run, including Surt, who just saw the shapeshifter. It's that classic Beowulf moment, the warriors deserting their king.
But Beowulf fights.
He attacks.
Yeah.
But his sword, nagling, doesn't work against the scales. And the dragon, it wounds him badly in the neck.
A mortal wound.
Looks like it. The men have fled. The king is dying. But Rune
stays.
Rune stays. He remembers his vow to Amma. He even yells at the fleeing man, reminding them of their boasts back at the feast.
Wow.
This is his moment.
Yeah.
His choice. He stays with his king, not out of duty, but loyalty, maybe love, maybe that vow. He stands alone with Beowulf.
Okay, so it's just Rune and the dying Beowulf against this monster.
Yeah. And Rune fights. He gets hurt. His arm takes a hit, but he manages to wound the dragon. Hits it in the belly.
The belly, is that significant?
It is. It connects back to an old story the bard told about King Frotho killing a dragon that way. It suggests a known vulnerability, tying Rune's action into the lore.
Okay. Clever detail.
The dragon gets one last hit with its tail, injuring Rune again, but then it's over. The dragon is dead. But Beowulf...
Beowulf is dying.
Right. Rune rushes to him in the burrow, surrounded by the treasure.
And Beowulf speaks.
His final words. And this is where the last pieces click into place for Rune. Beowulf explains that phrase, survivor of war.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a title Amma gave him, it's his name. His real name is Wiglaf.
Wiglaf. Like in the poem.
Exactly. Beowulf explains what it means, what remains after battle, and he tells him who he is. Son of Weohstan, Beowulf's own kinsman.
Mind blown. So Rune was Wiglaf all along. His name literally means survivor, tying him to that whole history Amma tried to escape.
Precisely. And then Beowulf's final act. He names Wiglaf his heir, puts the whole kingdom on his shoulders. Then he dies.
Wow. From farm boy to dragon survivor to king designate in, what, a day?
Pretty much. It's completely overwhelming. Kettle and Hemming help him down the mountain. He's already acting like a leader, though, sending Buri and Surt back to their farm's practical stuff.
But inside, he must be reeling.
Totally. He wakes up later in the bard's house, and the bard greets him. Wiglaf, son of Weohstan. Reality hits.
And people are already looking to him to lead.
The bard, Thora. They emphasize the kingdom needs a strong leader, and the men already see him that way after what he did.
And they give him the symbol of kingship.
The bard gives him Beowulf's torque. The weight of it, literally and figuratively. Rune is just floored. He never wanted this. He feels Amma didn't prepare him for this kind of life at all.
That internal conflict, the reluctant king, seems key now.
Absolutely. He starts trying to process everything. Amma's secrets, his own identity. He finds this little carved piece of wood Amma kept.
And it triggers something.
A vision, or maybe a memory. His mother placing him, a baby, in that boat. The cold, the waves, the darkness.
Connecting back to the very beginning.
Right, and connecting to Amma's dying words. Survivor of war. Wiglaf. What remains after battle. He finally understands. Amma saved him from the feuds that destroyed her own family.
So her secrecy wasn't about neglecting him, it was protecting him.
Exactly. All those dark beads, the interconnected secrets, were her way of shielding him. When he leaves her burned hut, he takes her tapestry.
Carrying her story forward.
Symbolically, yeah. He starts trying to lead, helping farmers rebuild, but he's still torn. He reflects on how much simpler the harvest was compared to worrying about the shelfings and, ruling.
But the community needs to rebuild.
They do. The harvest gets done, that's crucial. They start building a new hall. Simple thatch this time, not gold. Resilience.
And the first feast in the new hall.
It's a big moment. People come from all over, and the bard uses it to make the official announcement.
Tells everyone who Rune really is.
The whole story. Wiglaf, son of Wælstan, kin to Beowulf, related to the Brondings through his mother Ingetil, hero who stood against the dragon. It's the public legitimization.
How does Rune feel about that?
Awkward. You get the sense he's still uncomfortable being this epic figure everyone needs him to be.
He has to grow into it and start acting like a king.
Yeah, the Border Patrol arrives, a test of his authority. He feels judged, but people like Gar support him.
And then he makes a really significant move.
A bold one. He proposes sending peace envoys to the Shalfings.
Breaking the cycle of feuding.
Exactly. He argues the feud wasn't really theirs to keep fighting. It's a major departure from the past.
Does he get support for that? Seems risky.
He gets crucial support from Thora. Despite losing Finn, she sees the wisdom in it. She offers her son Thialfi, who has a Shilfing mother and is good with words, to lead the mission, and her other sons as guards.
Thora's strength is amazing there.
It really is. It shows Rune is already building alliances, succeeding where even Finn, who apparently tried to end the feud before, couldn't.
Okay, so things are moving towards peace, towards a new era. Coronation Day arrives.
Yep. Preparations, the mix of solemnity and just human moments. Like Rune's clothes tearing while Wynn, Gerd, and Cadil are helping him dress.
Any other small details?
There's a nice touch where Rune realizes Wynn and Cadil are now a couple. They made an agreement the night of the dragon attack. Life goes on. New bonds form.
What about his regalia?
He wears this cloak, embroidered with Thor's hammers and a dragon, symbols of his journey. And he carries his sword notes. The hilt feels more comfortable now. He's growing into it.
But still nervous.
Definitely nervous about the ceremony. Then the Shilfing envoys arrive. Hild, the daughter of the Shilfing lord. And Rune has this sudden realization. She's meant to be his bride. A peace weaver. Just like Amma.
History repeating. Or a chance to do it differently.
That's the question hanging in the air. He's struck by her presence, her beauty. Thinks of legendary queens.
But the peace isn't sealed yet?
Not by a long shot. Just as the coronation is about to start, Dayraven makes his move.
Dayraven. Still a problem.
He challenges Rune's right to rule, throws that insult again, cursed witch's whelp, claims he should be king. And he's got warriors backing him.
Chaos erupts.
Total chaos. The bard shoves the crown on Rune's head just as fighting breaks out. Kettle draws his sword. Rune's first thought. Get the non-combatants to safety. Even wounded with an arrow, his instinct is protective.
He has to fight Dayraven himself.
Yeah, and if Dayraven's good, Rune struggles. His cloak gets in the way. He doesn't have his mail shirt. He's relying on Finn's training just to survive. He gets cornered. Looks like it's over for him. Hild, the Peace Weaver. She acts decisively. Stabs Dayraven from behind, right through a weak spot in his mail. Saves Rune.
Wow. The Peace Weaver ends the fight.
Exactly. Rune catches her as she almost falls, and she says something like she's sick of the killing. Her violent act was to stop more killing, to enable the peace she represents. It echoes Amma's past, but maybe, just maybe, leads to a different future for Wiglaf.
What a journey. Seriously. From this kid on a farm who doesn't even know his own name.
To Wiglaf. King, dragon slayer, survivor, trying to build peace. It's incredible.
And the insight that really sticks with me is how those hidden things, Amma's past, Rune's real name, weren't just backstory. They were driving the whole thing.
Absolutely. And strength didn't just come from being a big warrior making boasts. It came from Amma's legacy, Ketil's loyalty, Thora's wisdom, even Hild's desperate act. Unexpected places.
And that fact about his name, Wiglaf, survivor of war, not just being a title, but his actual given name. That's powerful. It ties his whole existence to this theme of enduring conflict.
And you see him grapple with feeling totally unprepared for leadership, right? Which is so relatable. He didn't ask for it. But his choices, especially staying with Beowulf when everyone else ran.
That's when he earned it, not just inherited it.
Exactly. He proved himself through action.
So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Was Wiglaf's path kind of set in stone from the moment he washed ashore with that sword and shield? Was his name destiny?
Or, how much did his choices shape that destiny? Choosing to stay with Beowulf, choosing to seek peace, choosing to fight Dayraven. Did those actions forge the king he became?
And what does it really mean to lead a community that's been marked for generations by these deep feuds and secrets that are only just coming to light? That's something to chew on.